evening, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell. Before we bring on the amazing, incredible Gregory O. Proctor, who is a multiple myeloma survivor. And stay tuned because you definitely want to hear his story. I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor of the show, which is Image by Courtney. Courtney is a passionate speaker and personal stylist, boasting 7 years of global leadership experience. She is dedicated to empowering women leaders by cultivating poise and presence. Collaborating with individual groups and organizations, Courtney delivers tailored personal brand solutions that enhance authenticity and boost confidence. In addition to her prowess in style and leadership, Courtney is a beacon of resilience. Drawing from her journey of living with brain tumors and navigating stroke recovery, she ultimately integrates fashion and style as a potent tools for self-care. For more information about Courtney, go to her website, imagebycourtney.com, which is actually in the show notes as well. And right here, definitely go check her out. This lady is amazing, completely resilient. And she was on our show, The Power Half Hour, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. So go check out her episode on our YouTube channel as well. But now I have the distinct honor and privilege of bringing Gregory O. Proctor. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Dorothy, how are you? Thanks for having me on Unstoppable Overcomers. I'll tell you, I feel like I fit into that category.
Well, I spoke with you a little bit before today, and then today we were backstage with Kira, and it's just like, man, this guy is amazing, and his energy is off the charts. And for somebody who has been through hell and back with cancer, you would never notice that is what your journey it has been. But so for those of you that might just be tuning in and didn't see everything, Gregory, share with us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into your overcoming cancer story.
Sure. Well, just a little bit about me. Obviously I'm an entrepreneur, which I have been for probably 2 decades now. I've owned multiple companies, one being a project management consultancy firm where we've supported a lot of government and commercialized projects. The other companies that I've owned is my podcast, Cut to the Chase, where a lot of people actually knew me before all of the cancer stuff happened. I think the last 2 things that I like to share with your audience is I'm a recent published author of Faith, Strength, and Courage, which is now on the markets and certainly available via Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and so forth and so on. And I'm also a cancer survivor, cancer advocate, and living with multiple myeloma.
Wow. And here at Unstoppable Overcomers, we're no stranger to cancer, and we honor our survivors. And you're also a veteran. I wouldn't be remiss without saying thank you for your service, sir. Because everybody that has watched the show knows that we definitely give our heart and soul to veterans from around the world, and making sure that their stories are heard as well. But always wanting to honor you and say thank you for your amazing service. So I didn't want to step over that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So let's hear about your myeloma story, because it's one that, like, I got chills the first time I heard it. And this is definitely, for those of you out there that are going through the same thing, we just want you to know that you're not alone. And Gregory's story is definitely one of inspiration. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me. I think before I get started, I'd just like to kind of give your listeners and your audience just a little bit about, what is multiple myeloma? I mean, a lot of people get that confused sometimes with melanoma, which is a skin cancer, but multiple myeloma is a rare type of blood cancer, and it affects the plasma cells, which is a type of white blood cells that is found inside your bone marrow. And basically what that does is it causes abnormal plasma cells to accumulate in the bone marrow, which interferes with the production of your normal cells and can cause anemia, immune system disorder, bone pain, and a whole bunch of other symptoms, which I'll tell you, I've been through a lot of those already. So a little bit about my story. I was diagnosed in June of 2021, excuse me, July of 2021, where very similar to what we're doing right now, recording a podcast, having fun, laughing, and just enjoying, the kind of the dialogue.
Mhm.
And I was having back pain, and that back pain was started out kind of just as a nagging pain, and then eventually got more persistent and more persistent. And I realized at one point in time while I was recording podcasts, I was like, man, I'm consuming way more over the counter Tylenols than what I need to be consuming here because the pain had reached that intensification or that threshold where I just couldn't deal with it any longer. So what I'm going to share with your audience now, I think that I'd like to just kind of put out a word of caution because on the last night that I recorded a podcast and I decided to retire and went to bed, the following morning, I woke up and I could not move my lower extremities, meaning like from my waist down, I was paralyzed. And I said to myself, this must be a dream because I felt like it was an out of mind, out of body experience because I just couldn't fathom that I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't walk, I couldn't move. I had no mobility. So I immediately called my wife, who was out of the country, and she said, "Listen, sweetheart, dear, I mean, we've got a bunch of, nicknames that kind of go back and forth." She said, "Stop kidding me. I know you want me to come home, but this is no way to bring me home." And I said to her, I said, "Look, this is no joke. I mean, I'm laughing right now because, I could see her facial expression back then, but I'm saying to myself, I am quite serious of what's going on." She says, "Well, call 911." I said, "Well, how am I going to get to the front door to open them in? How, I just, it was just nuts." And so after I got off the phone with her and we decided, okay, it's best for me to get to the doctor, I decided, okay, let's muster up the courage. Let's figure out how to get into an army crawl where I can use my arms, do whatever I need to do to try to get some mobility. And so literally I rolled out of the bed. And of course, since I couldn't feel anything below my lower extremities, it didn't really hurt, right? But I did feel it in my arms.
Right.
So I managed to get down onto the floor, grab my keys and wallet off the nightstand and start to kind of crawl towards the front door, going down the stairs and everything else that was associated. And I guess the irony of all of this, as I'm explaining it, is if you can't move your lower extremities, how possible is it for you to drive, right? I mean, it's like, wait a minute, it's like I'm in so much pain and I'm just, I'm frantic, I'm concerned and all this anxiety is going through my mind. And, it just didn't even dawn on me at the time because the only thing I was thinking about is how can I get to medical, facility.
Mhm.
I managed to get to the car and, I'm right-handed, which is, dominant for me as well as my right foot. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I've got so much agonizing pain on the right side, but I had a little mobility on the left. And I realized, okay, I'm going to have to try and drive with my left foot. And of course, here in America, we all drive with our right foot. So the only thing that was saving grace for me getting from my home to my primary care doctor was the fact that there was nobody else on the road. This is in the height of COVID. Everybody's home, everybody's sequestered, trying to figure out what's going on in the world. And here it is. I'm dealing with this crazy pain that I had no idea, no recollection of what could be causing it. I get to the doctor. He gets me in and he says, "All right, let's see if you've got, slip discs or pull muscle or whatever the case may be." He starts poking and progging and he finally hits me in that spot. And I said, "Please, whatever you do, don't do that again," because it was agonizing. After we had that dialogue, he gave me a steroid shot, anti-inflammatory shot, x-rays. We did everything we could possibly do, blood work, to try and get to the root cause of this, but we had no conclusions. So this was on a Friday, which Fridays happen to be the turning point in my life in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
This was on a Friday. So I come home and I managed to get back into the house and basically just sat on the couch for like the next 48 hours. I mean, obviously I did what I had to do to get to and from the kitchen and, the restroom and things like that. But that's where I reside. And I realized, I said, this pain's not going away. And so I started doing my research. Thank God for Google and everything else, technological, because I was like, where can I see a spine management doctor? Where can I find a specialist that can give me further attention much greater than my standard primary care physician? So I found one. We went to him, or excuse me, I went to him because my wife wasn't back. He said, look, Greg, I can do all of the tests here, but we really need to get an MRI. The first MRI came back with this mysterious, we found something, but we don't know if it's cancerous or if it's benign. However, we need for you to come back and do this under an MRI, or excuse me, under an MRI with contrast. So all of these things are going through my mind. I mean, just, is it not? Is it not? And finally, by the time my wife got back into town, we went to the second MRI. And you know how you have these epiphanies when you see people and you just know something's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
As I came out of the MRI machine, I could just see the shocking disparity on the technician's face. And of course, being the person I am, I wanted to ask the question, well, are we good? And of course, I could see on her face that obviously this was not a question I wanted to ask, because certainly she wasn't going to tell me, and I already knew at that point in time. Mm-hmm. So by the time the results get back to my doctor, we go in and we see him and talk about the sense of urgency. I mean, at this moment in time, which was like June timeframe, this is before I was actually physically diagnosed, he pulled us into his office and he said, Mr. and Mrs. Proctor, you guys need to go see an oncologist right now. And this was not like playing the Monopoly game, the board game where you pass go, you get to. He was like, look, pass go, just, you need to get there today. This is very, very severe. Can you give us any more information? Well, Mr. Proctor, this is outside of my specialty skill. I can't talk about it. You need to see an oncologist. So we found an oncologist, and this is where, in my mind, all of the tsunami begins to take hold, and you begin to realize, okay, what is my life to become if this is indefinitely what we think it is? Mm-hmm. So we go through 48 hours of extensive tests, more blood work, more scans, bone marrow biopsies, which is very painful, by the way, if no one knows what that is. But certainly we went through that, pulled back into the office again on Friday of the oncologist that we had found. And she said, Mr. and Mrs. Proctor, this is what you have, which is multiple myeloma, IgA kappa, P17 deletion, 2 submutated genes, blah, 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 blah. Well, that was all Greek. I mean, it was kind of like I didn't understand it at the time. It was foreign language to me, and here it was. I'm just like, just give it to me straight. And the way she gave it to us straight was, I need for you to go home and get your affairs in order. And at that moment, it was like, here's the shock and awe of, am I going to die? Because we're just kind of in awe of everything that's going on. More information. It was overwhelming, and just trying to process it all was it was much more than an individual could bear at the time. So hearing that we needed to get our affairs in order, which was on a Friday, we had another 48 hours, my wife and I, to kind of console each other. Our rational thinking was out the door, because on Monday, here it is, I'm getting ready to start the most aggressive chemo process that I've ever heard of. I mean, I was on chemo for 6 to 8 hours per day for 3.5 months before I actually achieved remission. And I'll tell you, I was a walking zombie. I mean, it was horrific in the aspect of all of the drugs and chemicals and everything going through my body. But just the fact that I had no cognitive functions from being able to kind of think really clearly, was just hard to bear. And, dealing with that, the inability to work, and of course, trying to figure out how do you deal with the healthcare system and the insurances and all these things that you've got to kind of be on your P's and Q's with, it was just tough. And eventually I got to a point to where I just had to break down, get over, the aspects of the pity party by saying, why me? Why is this happening? And get myself educated, get to a point of, pretentious understanding that this is what I'm dealing with. How can we get ahead of it? How can we figure out how to move forward and be more proactive with the doctor so that we can be assured that we're getting the best possible treatment going forward? So we did that. And it was hard. I mean, because we needed to really reach out to support groups. We needed to reach out to Facebook groups because we were dealing with things that certainly we never heard of. I mean, the notion of being diagnosed with everything that she told me I was diagnosed with considered me in a very high risk category. So the IgA kappa is one aspect, but the P17 deletion was another aspect, which means that out of the 23 chromosomes that we have in our body, my 17th chromosome was like deleted. I mean, that is like, that's the best way to describe it. I mean, the disease had pretty much made it abnormal, to an aspect. And so with all of the things that were happening back then, we knew that this was going to be a long, long battle. So to kind of give you just the play-by-play, I achieved remission roughly in October of 2021. They cut back on my treatments and allowed for me to go from 5 days a week to about 2 days a week. Thank God, because I don't think I could have taken another month sitting in the stationary roller coaster ride of a chair and having all these chemicals and drugs pushed through my body. And so once we achieved remission, we started to put forth the game plan of, what's next. And ideally, what's next in a case for me, which I obviously had a choice, but to try to give me the best course of survivalship, the best course of longevity, it was to go through a stem cell transplant. And for your listeners, what a stem cell transplant is basically where they kill off your immune system with a high dose of chemo, which is called melphalan. And basically they re-inject either someone else's stem cells into your body or your own stem cells, which in my case, I went through what they call an auto a stem cell transplant, which is where I use my own stem cells. They collected them, cleaned them up, and basically re-impregnate them back into my body for them to, regenerate and grow again. So after going through all of that process, I made it to about the end of February, first week of March. I had a lot of complications dealing with engraftment syndrome. That is where like your stem cells start to re-impregnate themselves back into your bone marrow tissue, because when they put them back into your body, they're in your bloodstream, and that's not where they're supposed to be based on nature. And so I developed high fevers, uncontrollable, was back in the hospital for like 8 days, and just really dealt with a lot more uncertainty at the time, trying to figure out, again, am I going to live or am I going to die? And once we made it through all of those hoops, all of those hurdles, the financial aspect, the insurance aspect, the treatments, the regimens, and managed to get to the other side of that, I still had like the first 100 days after the stem cell transplant to try and rebuild, my immune system and rebuild my strength. And if anyone's ever gone through that process, within the first month that I was released from the hospital, I could barely walk. I mean, my body was so frail. It was so weak. I needed like a cane, a walker, to kind of stand up straight, because, my body had gone through so much and really had fought, to try to keep me alive. And I just did not have the strength to weather it. By the second month, I was able to kind of move about a little bit more, walk. And by the third month, I think we were up to probably walking somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 15 to 20 miles a week. And then after that, it just really, it kind of took off. And, I'm here today, not only to talk about my journey, but really to kind of express how much of a living testimony, that I am, to a lot of people that are out there, because we all tend to lose hope when we're faced with terminal illness or these adverse challenges that really impact our lives. And a lot of times you don't really know how to advocate for yourself. You don't understand how to really navigate those waters, because there are so many versions of multiple myeloma.
Mhm.
And with that being said, most people probably don't know this, but it is one of the most hardest to diagnose. It's one of the most expensive to treat. Um, and it gets the least recognition on mainstream, which is one of the reasons why I'm on here today to talk to you about this live, because this month, every March, is Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month. And it's really about elevating, the awareness about the disease and bringing forth, a way to kind of communicate and help people know that when you have certain symptoms that are going on with your body, it is best to go to your primary care or your physician and get those things checked out. Not to say that it would be cancer, but at least to know, what's going on. Because in my case, lower back pain, which is a symptom that is typically known for multiple myeloma, as well as renal failure and other things that are out there. These are all things that you don't want to take lightly, particularly when you're dealing with a blood cancer. And considering, I think the Cancer Institute, said there's like 35,000 newly diagnosed cases every year,
Right.
which, for me, and this is this is my own bias, I think that number is a lot higher, because this disease is something that people talk about. You shouldn't contract this disease until you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s. But let's be realistic here. For everybody that's listening to this, we've got people that are being diagnosed with this disease that are in their 20s, that are in their 30s, that are in their 40s. And for me, I mean, I got a birthday present. I was turning 50 years of age when I was diagnosed with this disease. And so for me, it was a strong wake up call to say, you know what? If I didn't do things right in the beginning, I better certainly figure out, if I have a second opportunity on life, how
Right.
to do them better going forward. And so, as I can say today, I'm 3 years since my diagnosis. I actually am doing extremely well. Pretty much a miracle. I mean, that's how my doctors look at it. And it's not just the modern medicine that actually helped me heal, but it was by way of my loving, supportive wife, my family, my friends. Everyone really poured in. Not only their support, their prayers, and any and everything that they could potentially do, because I couldn't work for like 2.5 years going through this. And so I feel truly blessed to have that type of support, fellowship, and community around me, because that's one of the most important things that I've recognized in all of this, is that you've got to have those people lift you up in your darkest hour and help you weather the storm and help you kind of navigate in a way that maybe you're not completely seeing the full picture, and help you understand what your purpose is in life. And so before
100%.
yeah, before I stop here, I just like to say, there was a night that I sat on the edge of my bed, and for me, it was consoling and humbling, because I tell everybody that I've gone through this, and they say, "Well, what's the one word that you can describe about everything that you've gone through?" And I basically tell them it was a humbling experience. I mean, it really was, because in the beginning, my life was busy, go, doing too much, committing to too much, and just, all of these things going on in your life, and not a lot of time for oneself, and taking care of me as being the individual.
Mhm.
But the night I sat on this bed, on my bed, I sat there, in tears, trying to console myself and grapple with the fact that this is where I am in my life. Now, to explain how bad it was, I had a tumor on my upper right hip, which was going across my sciatic nerve, sharp pain going down my right leg. I also had a fractured stirrup, which basically left me to a point to where I could not lay down uh, horizontal. and sleep. I had to sleep vertical. And this went on for an extended period of time before the bones healed, before they reduced the tumor size, before all of these things came into play. I was living with a lot of pain, a tremendous amount of pain. And so this night I sat on my bed. I made myself a promise. And I made myself not only a promise to myself, but the man above. I said, if you will allow for me to get through this, I will become that beacon of hope, that voice of reason for those who may not have a voice in this space, because the avocation piece gets overlooked, you know? And I just felt like I needed to be, on the front line, really promoting and bringing forth this and taking what I feared most, which was my vulnerability, which, on the other side of cancer, before cancer, vulnerability was out of the question. I was, the male Greg. And a lot of times, that's hard for people to kind of fathom. It's like you went from one spectrum to a different spectrum. But I'm here to say that vulnerability is powerful, I mean, to be able to take vulnerability and turn that into opportunity, to be able to take pain and turn that into power. I mean, to be able to have people gravitate to how positive and how uplifting you are, despite what your life is going through, that's priceless. I mean, that you can't put any type of worth on that. I mean, that became my purpose. And when I allowed for that to become my purpose, then I began to realize that I needed to leave a legacy about this disease, which led me to my book, Faith, Strength, and Courage. And a lot of the people and fellowship that I have out there were the ones that really pushed me to write the book, because I'll be honest with you, Dorothy, I was not thinking about writing a book. I mean, the things that were so important to me was getting my feelings out, putting them out on paper, putting them out on social media, and just letting people know that this is what this life is about. Because the number one thing for me in the beginning, after I got over the pity party, was the acceptance. The acceptance was like the number one thing that we all have difficulty, trying to console and wrap our arms around, because it is so riveting that it literally kind of rips you apart almost. The acceptance for me was like, okay, you know what? This is what my life was. Now I have to just say that that's in the past. Mm-hmm. And whatever my life is to become in the future, I've got to make the best of it. And I've got to figure out how to live with this disease in the best possible pretenses that I know today, and not let that kind of, waver me in the aspect that would allow for me to have a fulfilled life going forward. Now, of course, I'm not back to 110% or 1,000% or whatever people say, Greg was before cancer. No, I'm not. But I'm G 2.0 at this point in time. And I know for a fact that I still have a lot of life to live. I still have so much to give to this world, and I am on that track right now to continue to elevate and nourish people's souls and really be that beacon of hope that provides the prosperity and value that they need in their lives. Because every now and then we all need someone that can just give us a little bit of a nudge, and kind of help us understand that we are here for a purpose. I mean, we have reasons to be here. And the thing for me is like, I don't want this disease to steal my joy. The fun factor of life, the fun factor of things that I want to do. Yeah, it hurts. I still deal with complications and pain and my immune system failing me in the worst possible times. But guess what? Continue to persevere, continue to be resilient, and continue to live through life is the only way I know how, which is primarily why I came up with the slogan, which is not my slogan, but I think a lot of people think that I invented it because, it came about through my cancer journey, which was don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. I mean, at the end of the day, if you are breathing, able to see, touch, smell, all your five senses, or maybe not all your five senses are in order, you're blessed.
100%.
You're blessed,
100%.
you know?
I just want to go into the comments here. Our friend Tim is joining us here from Pennsylvania. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for all you do, Gregory, and congratulations on your book.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks.
It's important to find joy in every cancer journey, and Tim is definitely somebody who knows about that as a leukemia survivor himself. So
Yep.
Thank you for that. And, you said so much. And I wanted to I mean, it was all amazing. And I just, wow. There's so many different things that you touched on, and you were, as I went to go try and ask a question, you were like, kind of just answered it with the next thing that you said. So you can definitely tell he's a podcaster. So with that though, Gregory, what an amazing testament. And I dare say when you said Gregory 2.0 or G 2.0, it's the G, I think, stands for God too. Because God is definitely working in you.
That's right.
As somebody who was in the military, transitioned out of the military, you're not taught to show your feelings in the military.
That's right.
And so cancer was the one way to get you to reveal your vulnerability. I mean, God could have used other ways, but that wasn't the way that, was chosen for you. And so kudos for you though, for not giving up, because you went back to, having your wife there and people surround you to help you get through that journey. I think having a support system, especially while going through cancer, is imperative. As somebody who lost a family member to cancer, I know that, having that support system for my dad was imperative to get him at least through 2.5 years. And, I can't imagine. I know what it's like being the caregiver, but I can't imagine. I tried to get into his head a couple times while he was still with us. And, I know that the fear of, okay, this could potentially take me out tomorrow. Today's never promised, or tomorrow's never promised. We have today. And so for somebody who's going through that right now and is in that stage where, it looks kind of dim or grim, but there's breath, there's hope. I've always said that, where there's breath.
That's correct.
Right until his last moment, I said that. And so what would you say to that cancer patient that's listening right now, that's just like ready to give up and just they've lost hope in the situation? What would you say to them right now?
Well, I'm not going to say it's a simple answer, because there's so many different dimensions as to what people are coping with and dealing with. But I'm going to be truthful and as honest and as transparent as I can when I say this. When you think that your light is dimming, when you think that you're close to that point, you have to find the will, the purpose, the acceptance to live. Because at the end of the day, for me, regardless of how hard it was, the $2.75 million that I've spent on record today, my insurance company saying they're going to drop me right in the middle of my treatment, not having income. I mean, you just can't even imagine, you've got to basically understand that this is a chapter. And that chapter doesn't define you. And outside of that chapter not defining you, and finding a purpose that brings forth that joy, that peace that you need in your life. As they say, sometimes people check out, when they hear the word cancer. Well, I'm going to use a phrase that a good friend told me. You got to check back into life when you get that diagnosis. And what I mean by that is you got to find all of that strength, faith, strength, and courage to be able to get yourself back into a mental capacity where you are a part of your life and you have this in tow. This is not controlling you. Cancer doesn't control you. You've got to have it in tow. You've got to say, yeah, I'm living with it. And it is a part of my diagnosis, and I'm going to share one thing with you real quick. And a lot of people will probably, they may think this is a funny joke, but I am being completely serious. Now, in my prior life, you know, I traveled all over the world, you know, doing projects, just, you know, helping mega companies, you know, get themselves out of their own way with a lot of these crazy projects, whether it's government or commercial, you name it. So when we put out the news press that I had multiple myeloma, people were saying, well, this disease has messed with the wrong guy. And then as I started going through the treatment and I achieved remission, people were like, at one point, they were like, well, aren't you done? You've achieved remission. I mean, you know, isn't this like over with? And I would have to explain to them, and this is why I'm making this point. I would have to explain to them that I'm living with the disease. And in order for me to live with the disease, I have to continue my treatment. And that's just a part of keeping it abated, keeping me MRD negative, and keeping me in a circumstance to where I can still flourish and thrive in my life, always knowing, but not letting it succumb me, not letting it take over me, but always knowing that, yeah, it's there, but it's abated. Can it come back? Possibly. But I don't want to live in that fear every single day. So I've got to take these moments that I have and allow for myself to enjoy, you know, some of the better things in life. I mean, put together your bucket list, and by God, if you think you're at the end, I mean, go do everything. I mean, that's just the way that I look at it. I mean, like on my bucket list, you know, for my wife and I 3 years ago, before all of the cancer diagnosis happened, you know, we wanted to go walk the Camino de Santiago. And when all of this happened, it was like the rug got pulled from underneath us. It was like, well, we can't do this now because I couldn't walk. And so this year, we're taking not only myself, but 6 other multiple myeloma patients, and we're actually going in less than 2 months to go do the Camino de Santiago. And so this is what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, it's a chapter. Sometimes we have to get out of our own way. Sometimes we have to allow for our joy to come back into our lives. Sometimes we just have to think that cancer can't be 90% of your life. It needs to be 10% of your life. And living needs to be 90%. Because I'm going to use another analogy for you here because, you know, I'm just full of energy, right? I'm just full of energy. So here's the other analogy. I always tell my doctors, hey, I love you guys. And they know how much I love them because I'm pretty much, you know, I'm a patient that is probably so detail oriented, it drives them nuts. But my wife, on the other hand, she's like 100x above me. I mean, I'll just tell you, she comes in with lab reports, trend analysis, charts, graphs, this. I mean, it's full. But my doctors are like, they're puzzled. They're like, whoa, wait a minute. But here, let me get to my point. So I always tell my doctors they're navigators. And they look at me and they go, well, Greg, how can you say that? I'm like, I only see you 10% of the time, 15% of the time. I still have to live outside of this clinic. I have to either work if I can work. I have to, you know, fend for my, you know, whatever it is, 80, 90% of the time. So the same aspect as you apply where you're at today and you're consumed by cancer because it's consumed you 90%. Think about those two things I just stated. Because at the end of the day, you really have to consider that, number one, you are still here with us. And that in itself is a blessing.
Absolutely. 100%. Look at the positive and not the negative, because if you do, it will take you out. Right. I always said overcoming cancer is 90% mentally. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, you go through the chemo and yes, all that. But if you've already checked out before you even started your treatment, you may as well not even bother. And that was one of the first questions I asked my dad. I picked him up, took him out for breakfast. I called my mom ahead of time. I said, nothing against you, but I just want to take Dad out, just him and I. And he goes, well, what's this about? And I'm like, I want to know where your head is. Yeah. Like, because if you have already given up, or are we fighting this?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm in it to win it. And
Hmm.
so, yeah,
That's
unbeknownst,
that's a
unbeknownst to me, that's what he told me, but he was really scared.
right,
But
right. Well, that's a very good point because, same thing happened to me. My mom flew in, my brother, my sister-in-law. I had my best friend that I'd worked together with for, I don't know, God knows, 6, 8 years. I had another close friend of mine. I mean, everybody parachuted in for that purpose. For that purpose. They were like, Greg, we know you're determined, you're driven, you're passionate, but we had to come and just see you, you know. I had a friend of mine that hopped in this car and drove from Portland, Oregon, to come here and go, man, everything I read online, it looks like you're going to be on the checkout version, and I needed to, put my eyes on you before. I'm like thinking to myself, like, are you crazy? I'm like, oh, man, unless he tells me it's my time, this is just a segment in my life, and trust me, I'm going to fight it to the end because, I've got a lovely wife that I tell her every day. I'm like, hey, I want to be here as long as I can be here because the quality of life that I have with her and her family, as well as with my family, I mean, to me, that is so, so important. And, those are just things you just can't take for granted.
100%, 100%. So if you're just tuning in now and you missed Greg's story of his multiple myeloma, you're going to have to go to our YouTube channel and catch the front half, because I'm telling you, it was probably one of the most powerful episodes that we've had to date here. Greg, thank you so much for sharing your heart and being vulnerable with this, because I know number one, by nature, men don't generally do that, and especially somebody who's ex-military. So we truly appreciate you doing that. So where can people find your book?
Well, the book is available on Amazon. It's also available on Barnes and Nobles. If they put in Faith, Strength, and Courage by Gregory O. Proctor, certainly they will be able to find it. I'm kind of glad you brought this up. I'm actually getting ready to go on a small book tour here.
I love it.
Within 2 weeks. We'll start here in San Antonio, and we will go across to Florida. And basically, it's going to be piggybacking off the Barnes and Noble's platform. So I'll be in a multitude of Barnes and Noble stores, which I can pass those dates along to you afterwards if you want to put those into the sheet notes for your viewership. Yeah.
100%. And I have some coworkers. We have a facility in San Antonio. So my Pure Hot House Foods people,
sure,
get over to the Barnes and Noble in San Antonio and support. I'll have to tell them, hey, put this on the bulletin board.
Yeah. We've got a pretty nice road kit set up. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting opportunity. Unfortunately, we're only going to be able to do about a month and a half of touring because, May's only right around the corner, and we'll spend probably about 15 or 18 days in Spain, and then we'll pick up the second half of the tour on the way, towards the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. And did you say there was a second book coming out?
Yes. So I have, a second book in the works, which is basically when you put the two books together, it'll give you kind of the whole essence of Gregory O. Proctor. The second book, we're looking to have it debut to the general public probably about this time next year. I really want to have it on the market right at the inception of Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month, which basically goes for the entire month of March. And the title of that book is entitled, Am I Not What You Expected? So let that marinate.
We can't wait to get our hands on that one too, man. Like, seriously, Gregory, you're not what I expected. That's for sure.
Well, when you think about, the aspect of what really kind of resonates with, faith, strength, and courage, overcoming your fear and living out, life's journey. I mean, it's not just about cancer. I mean, the book itself is compelling and inspiring to basically, let's just say, take cancer out of the equation and you put in, hey, I'm going through a divorce. I'm going through financial setback. I'm dealing with a death in the family that's non-cancer related. I mean, the real world, ways that I express things that I went through without using, all of the medical terms and scientific terms that are out there, because I've read a lot of great cancer books, but sometimes it's like you say to yourself, man, how is this really relatable? And the first thing I wanted to do, which makes my book so powerful, and the reason why we have a 5-star rating right now on Amazon, and we continue to blow up the literary world with regards to what's going on with my book. I can also say that the book was in the Screens International magazine last month, which was a large publication for playwrights, moviegoers, and so forth and so on. I mean, if they're looking for the next great movie, that's the book you want to be in. This month, the book is being featured in the London book show, which is going on, which I'm pretty excited about. Of course, I couldn't go, but certainly my team is over there pushing it. But anyway, back to the book. Yeah. It gives you aspects of personal growth, which we all want. Mm-hmm. We all want personal growth, especially when you're dealing with adversity or challenges in your life. It gives you an inspiring, real life encounter. And guess what? If you know me and you go read this book, you're going to read a lot of stuff about me that you thought you knew about me, but you're going to realize, like, oh my God, man, this guy, woo! I mean, what he went through. Mm-hmm. Discovering a sense of purpose. Because like I said, for me, it was like, this was my life, and then this came into my life at this predominant point in my life, and guess what? I got to retool. I got to recalibrate. I got to put things back into perspective to try to figure out, well, how do I live the next 50 years? Which, if I even start to talk about that, you're going to laugh, because what my life was and what my life is now, it's 180. Woo!
We're going to have you come back, because we're like, seriously, we're going to have to do a part 2, because I don't want to cut you off, because I know you're doing amazing hair, but I do have to bring up the amazing Kira Elliott here to the stage. And Kira, welcome.
Hi there. Hi. Thank you
Kira.
for sharing your story, Greg. That was amazing. I mean, we got to chat beforehand, but holy buckets. I'm on the edge of my seat. You're not what I expected.
Right? This whole night is nothing what I expected, let me tell you. So tonight, we are doing something that we've never done before on so many levels. So tonight, I just want to introduce you, Kira Elliott. She is the co-founder of the Kimbra, along with Kimberly Genovese, who's normally the roving reporter on this part of the show. Well, fortunately for Kimberly, she's on vacation, and she thought, well, why not have Kira step in for me, and she can share with us a little bit about her version of Kimbra, and to speak about an exciting event that we're going to have Wednesday. So Kira, over to you if you want to tell our viewing audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit about the event, and then we'll go on to the fundamental section of the show.
Certainly. Well, hi, everybody. Kimberly, I don't actually know the size of her shoes, but she has got some big shoes to fill, right? So I'm just like, I hope I do.
She doesn't usually wear shoes. That woman's always barefoot if she can help it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, that's actually, I think that's probably a good way to be. Maybe not a fundamental, but it's a good way to be. Mm-hmm. It's actually, just better for you in your movement anyway. So, I mean, having said that, just a little bit about me personally, because it'll give you a better idea of why I do something like what we do at Kimbra. So I've been a business owner since the age of 25. I started my first business when I was 17 years ago. And so, and I've been an entrepreneur basically my entire adult life. And I started with a business called Comfy Fitness, which is still active today. And at Comfy Fitness, what we do is restorative movement. We run classes online weekly of a restorative movement, namely movement that taps into your nervous system to help you release tension that is holding you back in your body. So if you're tired of the old like brain, like forward conversation inside of your transformational journey, what we do at Comfy Fitness is we do the feedback system, right? So your body's running the show. Your body's running the show, you know? And so you gotta make sure that you know how to communicate and really feel your body at a very deep level to understand exactly what it is you need, what your boundaries are, all of those sorts of things. And so that's what I've been doing for years and years and years and years and years inside of the like movement fitness industry. And then Kimbra actually started quite organically with Kimberly Genovese. We were in a team management and leadership program together several years ago. And we wanted to do something, but we didn't know what it was. So we actually we started a business with no product. And over time, what ended up, it's such a silly story, right? We're just like two little children. Like, we just want to hang out, right? Like, we have so much fun together. And then we figured out what the product was going to be eventually. And so what we do at Kimbra, because I think that most of your audience, in case they don't know Kimberly, she's a serial entrepreneur. I've owned 6 businesses in that 17-year span as well. And I actually run and operate 3 of them simultaneously now. Okay. And that doesn't even count the fact that I've been a political activist and organizer in the city of Chicago since 2009. I'm a wife and I'm a mother of a toddler and an infant. And so I'm crazy busy, and it's a very, very full life, and it's a lot of fun. And so what Kimbra is community spaces that help people like me, people who are big dreamers, who have really big goals, come into community to be held accountable. I know some people like accountability is like kind of a scary word. Don't be scared. Okay. It's very fun. We hold people to accountability inside of community. It's incredibly fun. And each community space is geared toward a different resource that we all need in order to make anything in the world go. Okay. So we have one space that specifically talks about money and how to grow your money resource. One is geared toward people, and that's the one that Kimberly actually runs, called Rainmaker. Rainmaker is wow, like springboard in the middle of the week. I love it. I love all of our rituals. It's just that Rainmaker is like my pick me up big time. And then we have Time Bender with me on Fridays at 5 p.m. And Time Bender was our original product. What was happening inside of my movement space was everybody's like, I don't have time to really take care of myself. And I was like, yes, you do. Right. And so I was like, why don't you come in on Mondays at 10? I do my schedule. I have this ritual that I do around my schedule where I journal and I create my week ahead. And this was 2018 or 19. Why don't I open up a Zoom room and you can come in and I'll just tell you what I'm doing and you do it along with me. Right. And so I did that for free for a really good long time. And then more and more people started coming into the space. And I was like, I think we have a product here. Right. And then from there, the ritual spaces grew. And now we have a robust community. We have a fabulous time together. We get to know each other really well because different people go to the different community spaces. And you really you actually feel, because a lot of us entrepreneurs are like flying solo, or maybe we have a partner, right? And so to actually be able to fall into these spaces and to be held, or right on the other side of that, to be the person that's just like, I just crushed it this week. And let me give you that like energy, right? Because we need that. We need to see people. We need to see proof of success. And that's also one of the big things that our spaces, among many, many, many things, have to offer. And I highly recommend it, especially if you are someone in the world who's making things happen, who's setting goals, who wants systems, who wants accountability, who wants fun. Kimbra's where it's at, baby. So anyway, that's about me. That's about Kimbra. That's what we do. Thekimbra.com. Absolutely. Dorothy just put it in the chat there. And then on Wednesday night, this week, Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. So, well, what's great about Kimbra is we're all online. So Central Time, wherever you are in the United States, or we do have one member in Thailand. So anywhere around the world, truly, come in, check out our space. But 6 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a special introduction to the Kimbra. So anybody can come. Everybody and anybody is welcome. And inside of that introduction, I'm going to dive a little bit into what our members at Kimbra are saying, some of the things that they're achieving because they're coming week after week inside of our spaces. And then I'm also going to be giving away a little bit of our rituals because, I'll give away the whole ritual because the actual product is the community, right? Our community is our product. Like I could tell you what you need to do, right? But until you actually come in and you start to ritualize the systems that we provide or your own systems, whatever works for you, until the ritualization and accountability is there, right? You can know until the cows come home, right? And so that's truly the product. So come in Wednesday night, 6 p.m. I will send out the Zoom link when people email me, Dorothy, unless you have some other system set up at
Yes.
Info@Kimbra. No, okay, you got a new system.
Yes.
Okay.
So for this particular event, because Kira will be on my Power Half Hour show, that's where we're actually doing it. We're doing it on the Power Half Hour show at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Sorry. We're two different time zones. So yeah, it will be on, so wherever you're listening to it right now, that's where we'll be. We'll be on my Facebook group. We'll be, or not Facebook group, Facebook profile. We'll be on my YouTube channel. We'll be on LinkedIn. And Kira, when we go live, you can actually, up at the top right corner, there's a space where you can click it. So it could actually even go on any of your spaces as well.
Oh, neato. Yes, I will do that.
Yes. So we could have it in a bunch of different spaces. And since it's being recorded at the same time, Kira, I'll definitely make sure that you have it. So you could use it for the community as well.
Wonderful. Yes. I would love that. That's great. It's great.
Perfect. Yes. Yes. So just let us know. We'll send you a private invitation if you'd like. If you really would like the golden envelope, we can definitely do that.
I don't know if that's necessary, but I mean, I'll be there either way. So
that's right. She will be there. And so the Power Half Hour is at a different time for this Wednesday only. It is 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, because we need to accommodate Kira's schedule a little bit with her amazing children and her husband and everything she does. But that's okay because we want to make this an event that everybody's going to remember. Actually, I don't know about you, Kira, but my goal is to make sure that 20 new people join the community that night would be amazing. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're doing things solo and you want accountability and you want a fun space to be in, because I'm telling you, I'm a member of Kimbra. So definitely come join the rituals. Guarantee you'll have fun. And I originally said 5, but oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But this is what happens when I open my mouth. Insert clip. Enough about me now. So we are going to go to the fundamental section of the show. So, Gregory, what would you say your 3 fundamentals are?
Faith, strength, and courage.
Well, that was simple and easy. So, Kira, what would you say your 3 fundamentals are?
Oh, was I supposed to think about this beforehand?
Well,
oh my God.
You were. I figured since he went like this.
Okay. I'm sure I can come up with something that's close, at least on the spot. I'd say number 1, fun. You got to have fun. Like, I I'm a party girl at heart. And I think that like fun has always been, I don't do anything if it's not fun. So that would be number one. Number two is just come from love. So, you know, like, you know, there's all kinds of ways you can come at something. And when the context of love is there, usually things work out real great. And then the last piece I would say is as often as you can, get in your body and be present. I think that there's so much richness, and I think so often we're looking outside of us for healing and transformation, and it's all right there. It's all right there. So
love it. So you did amazing. You did absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Kira. And you did amazing job. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Dorothy, for inviting me on. Thank you, Greg, for sharing your incredible story. I was like tearing up and remembering some intentions that I had put into, it was new moon intentions this weekend. So and I was like, yes, that's right. That's right. That's why God has put Greg right in front of me now. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. We absolutely appreciate you coming each week to definitely bring your presence here. We totally appreciate you. We pray that you got something out of each and every episode that we do put on here, because that's what our goal is, to make sure that, you know, we serve our community. Be unstoppable in all that you do. And Gregory, do you have any last words for our guests?
Yeah. Go out and buy the book. I always have something to say.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I knew we had to get other things in here, and I promise we will have you back in the future for sure. Because I mean, you just like, you're the Energizer Bunny. I swear I wanted to go have a nap before I got on here to do the show tonight, and now I'm just like buzzed. So thank you. I love your energy. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart, Gregory, and sharing your story and inspiring others. And remember that if you hear the C word, it's not a death sentence. It just means it's a chapter in your book. And we are here to support you 100%. We're part of the community. Now that you've been on the show, you're part of our family. So absolutely, you're part of our tribes. And so thank you so much. And don't forget, guys, same time, same channel next week. And go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already. And we are on Roku, baby. So go check us out on Roku. I know a potential in 85 million households around the world. We're potentially there. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, anybody you know that has Roku. We're on our channel's Unstoppable Overcomers. Make sure you watch from there too. This episode will be up there and give us about a week or two. It will be up there. But yeah, so check us out, share it with everybody, because that sharing's caring. And come join us Wednesday night with the amazing Kira, talking more about Kimbra and how we can help you be part of an amazing community. So take care, guys, and see you Wednesday night.